Hi,
Hi.
welcome, Mom.
Well, thank you, Nance.
All right. We are going to be having a conversation around art, and we are going to be looking at my picture titled Mamas Don't Forget. So I want to welcome you, Mom. This is my mother, Quinnell Henderson. Welcome to the art room. All right. How you doing today, Mom?
Doing great. This is
Good.
a great Sunday.
For a Sunday. Yes, let me turn this music off here so I can hear your voice.
Um,
That's much better.
yeah, or either you could turn it down a little.
There we go. It's all the way off.
Okay.
All right. Well, welcome. I'm so delighted that you were in agreement to come and talk with me about the piece that I did. Um, it's a piece that I created back last year, actually, during 2020. And I don't know, Mom, it took me maybe about, gosh, I worked on it like a little bit. Then I would, work on something else, and I came back. So it probably took about 2 to 3 months to do it. And
Could may I ask the question? Could you turn your volume up a little?
sure, I'm at the highest I can go. Can you hear me? Is
Oh, okay. All right. Just kind of right.
that better?
Yes.
Great. So, well, why don't we start off first of all? I do have a little special way I wanted to start this conversation with you, and well, let me back up. First of all, I want to just thank you for always being so supportive of me and my art and my creativity because without your support, I certainly wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now.
You're going down on me.
Uh-oh.
You're getting all sentimental
I
and
am.
going down.
I am getting sentimental. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see that okay?
Yes, I can.
So I wanted to start the conversation off with this. You remember this?
I You caught me at a time. I know what it is.
Okay. Well, for those who
I
don't
know
know,
that you entered a contest
I
with
did.
with Ebony,
I did.
and we were so proud of you. You are you were terrific then, and you are more terrific now.
So
I do remember
start off
that.
by looking at my age 6 first official published piece of work, which is hilarious when I look at it and the context.
Yeah, compared to where you are now, right?
Well, not even compared, but like, look at the subject. Like, my hands are open. The dude is giving me flowers and the heart and the house. It's just so interesting how my mind was thinking back then. I don't know. Maybe I was like always searching for love. I don't know.
I I don't. The thing that catches my eye is she's got her hands out, her arms out, but I don't see any hands. So
No.
is she ready for that gift or not?
Ah, good point. I don't even know.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. And then his face is like he's got a happy face and smile, but I can't hardly see my face. So I don't know.
right.
Maybe I hadn't come into my fullness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I just thought I'd start off with that kind of just to remind us of, where we've come. And then just the support of you as a parent, whoever it was that decided, let's get a stamp, let's get an envelope and send this girl's little picture into this big publishing Ebony Junior company. And somehow it got selected. So that,
Well, you know who probably it was.
no, I
It
don't.
probably, huh?
I don't know who it was. Who was it?
Well, it probably was your mother.
Okay, all right. Well, that's
Mhm.
why I'm saying thank you to you, which is perfect.
Yeah.
What we're here for now is to look at where we have come and how you have always been such a support in my life. So that brings me to my picture that I
Eh,
did create for you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
No, I just looked over at that little girl with her part straight. That's how I used to comb your hair, and
Oh,
it just reminds me so much of you. I could. Would you put her back up
I
again?
sure will. Let's get her back up. Let's see here.
See, yeah. Even I can see from her, not her. on the picture of the cover.
Oh, go back.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, her.
I would put the bobbles at the top. It's two little bobbles at the top of the twirl, the twist, and then it's one at the bottom to keep it together. I remember that so well. Now, what I'm about to say is, if you cover up her from her eyes up, cover up her nose and the rest of her face, she looks like you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think so.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think that was the beauty of Ebony Jr. was it was so powerful to be able to see images of ourselves that we didn't see on TV back in the 70s and 80s. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
magazine definitely changed our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be nice to see that revived again in some way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let's look at the guy on the motorcycle and see what he's doing.
Well, I'm not able to zoom him in. I only have a picture of my picture, but shout out to all the artists that are on this page. Maybe you see your work and that's you. So shout out for Ebony Jr.
Yeah, that was great. That was good time. That was good times watching you draw.
Oh.
You always would draw, and you always would teach. You were a teacher. As soon as you learned how somebody was listening.
I'll teach trees and the grass.
You would eat you teach the little teddy bears, you teach the little Barbie dolls, and you would have them all lined up across the wall. And you guys had a lot of them. And the little rabbits, it didn't care if he was stuffed, if he was half broken up or what. He would be in your classroom.
All are welcome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that has not changed a bit. Not one bit. Yeah. Okay, well, great. That was a nice start, I thought. I asked you to come prepared with a cup of tea. Do you have a cup of coffee, something good to drink?
Oh, look, we just happen to have the same cup.
Hey.
Gray hair.
Hey, my purple hair.
Yeah.
All right. Shout out to Imania by Designs for our.
All right.
That's my sister's company. She is also an artist and creative. So looking at that just talks about you as a mother and how you were so instrumental in teaching us creativity. You are, I still say you are. I hope you don't stop creating even in your golden years, but I remember you as a sculptor and a clay worker. Like you would get a piece of clay.
Yes, I love that.
Oh, and you could make these heads of people you just were a sculptor with your little toothpick and that clay, and you could make the likeness of anybody. And I sure wish we still had those pieces because they were truly amazing.
I remembered sometimes I had wanted to ask Helen Howard, did she still have them? Because I think I gave her two and she hung them on her wall, rather. And I just gave them away. I would make them and give them away. And I would take them in toward put shellac on them and burn them in the stove, so the shellac would stay on. Yeah. Anyway, I wanted to go back to that,
excuse me,
the picture, and it's not like blowing my horn, but a child does what it sees its parents doing. If you're doing nothing, they'll do nothing. But if they see you working towards something or have some type of hobby or have something other than just TV, because we did have TV back there, and the radio playing, all kind of songs. All they want to do is just dance. But this is what I want to tell you. I kind of remember that picture that I drew? I think it had an indelible effect on you. The picture with the little girl praying at the bed. She was on this rug.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the cat was at the bed. And I drew that and it came out so well. I think that really inspired you.
It did. I can still remember
Mhm,
the color that you added to it. I don't know
mhm,
what you used, if it was pastels or what, but
mhm,
I can remember that so clearly. Yeah,
mhm, mhm. So that I did kind of have an effect on you liking art or
absolutely.
going to art, I believe.
Absolutely.
And mhm. And about the sculpture, that was so satisfying. It's just like sewing. I sew.
Yes, you are an amazing seamstress. You can
And I used to
sew
make
anything.
you all's clothes. I made your clothes, and I had you little matching like you were little twins. And
Mhm.
uh, it was just so much fun to take a piece of cloth, like you take your canvas, and there's nothing on it. It's just plain,
Mhm.
and then it starts coming in your head. Now this is what I want. So I'm gonna put this pattern down. You know, drawing is different than sewing because I was using a pattern. But when it all comes together and it looks just like the pattern, you are so proud
Mhm.
that it's something satisfying about finishing what you started. It's something satisfying about having a goal. You know what the end product is, and staying on that vein or staying in that vein.
I agree. Very satisfying. And that you would mention that not only for me, I'm finding that there's satisfaction, but and I don't want to get too deep. So I don't want to you told me don't go deep.
Yeah,
Although I
don't
can't help it. That's
go
what
try
I do.
because
but I'm
we can go
finding
as deep as you feel comfortable in going.
okay. But
Hmm.
I'm finding that the more that I do the more that I do participate now, the more that I do my art, let's just say that, I'm finding that it's almost like a form of prayer or meditation for me. As I
Mm,
do pieces and as I'm sketching, it takes a while, but whatever that subject matter is, that's what I'm meditating on for that whole time that I'm doing it. So whether I'm doing
mm.
a picture of when I did Diana Ross on Lady Sings the Blues,
Oh, fantastic.
I'm thinking of that when I was doing your picture. I'm meditating on you. I'm thinking about you. I'm praying for you the whole time when I'm doing whatever the picture is, because you're spending time doing it. Just like when you're sewing our clothes, you thinking
Mhm,
about us and what's going to fit. So
mhm,
it's more than just doing it. Your
mhm,
spirit is connected to whatever it is that you're doing.
mhm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I guess this is a good time for us to just jump on in and look at my picture from 2020, which was titled Mamas Don't Forgets. Let me go ahead and share my screen with you. I'm going to go ahead and flip my camera on and I'll put it up here on the screen so that we can see it together. And I'm going to turn it around. Hold on just a second. It's backwards. And let me move it up a little bit closer so you won't see all my other gadgets and goodies. So this is a picture that I created for you, Mom. This was like something just dedicated to you. And you have seen this before, so this is not like a surprise. Oh, you've seen it before. But I thought it was there was enough content in what I was thinking about that I really wanted to talk with you and just kind of go through what was in my mind and get your feedback on on what I did. So this is the actual picture.
Mhm,
It's done with color pencils and paper. That's really it. Oh, and I also did add in some other
mhm,
pictures that I printed and
mhm,
added them in.
mhm, mhm,
So this is called Mamas Don't Forgets. And just kind of as a before we kind of go into the picture itself, thank God you are well. You had just gotten over a major COVID situation. And I completed the picture before you even got sick. The picture was completed. And so it was one of those things in my mind, like, okay, I really want to get Mom. I want to talk to her and record her and just get her thoughts. And then the illness came and it wiped out everything, that we were even thinking about. So this was kind of back burner. And I just didn't want the opportunity. Now that you're well, thanking God for his healing power. I'm so grateful to God to see you up. I mean, we could talk about that for a whole
Amen. Amen.
and
Hallelujah to
we'll probably
his
get to
name.
that right there when we get
Oh,
on.
yeah. We're going to talk about that one.
Yeah. So, but just overall, I didn't want to let the opportunity pass, because a conversation that's not had is missed, and
Yeah.
words not said are missed. So I'm at a point where I really want to value the time that I have with you and with others, and just make sure that I don't look back and regret, like, wow, all I had to do was just do a Zoom with her and talk to her and
Mhm,
preserve
mhm.
it. So that's the goal, is just to talk about it today, and preserve your ideas for not just myself, but for your other daughter and for your grandchildren. And you are blessed enough to have great grandchildren. So hopefully some of
Yeah, how about that?
yeah,
Never would have thought it.
man. So you're a great
Never.
woman, and you God has blessed you. So um basically I started out by doing the purple flowers. I don't know why purple and me and you. I always think of purple with you. I don't know why I do that, but
And here I have on purple today. Had no, it
oh,
didn't even dawn on me.
on purple, and you have on purple too. We both have on.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
How about that?
wow, that's so cool. Wait, and then in Sunday school we learned about Lydia, who was the woman who worked with purple.
Oh, she sold purple cloth. Yeah.
So I guess it's
Wow.
a purple moment. So
Yes,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I said, yes, it is.
Yes, it is.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the hearts represented obviously love, just the love. You're such a loving mother. The love always shined through to me. I always felt your love, even in, a world where I had disabilities and the world would be very, very mean, and I had a hard time with my, acceptance in the world with my disability. But one thing I knew for sure at home was there was love. I felt secure in my love. I felt whole, and you never made me feel like I was not worthy or
Not a part.
not a part. Yeah. And you never
Mm-hmm.
would let me use my disabilities as an excuse ever. Like, that just wasn't what we did. We just didn't do that. So that, and then I added some fruit.
Wait now, that right there was rooted in me from my mother.
Hmm,
If I could just tell this little story
please do.
about your uncles, about my brothers. I had two brothers that were born with congenital cataracts,
Mhm,
Stanley and Randy. And Randy's eyes were way worse than Stanley's.
mhm,
But God has a way, if you live for God and you live righteous and you try to live holy before Him, God has a way of blessing not only you,
mhm,
but He will bless the generation that you bring into the world.
mm,
And that's what happened through my mom. Um, the boys were carted off. They talked my mom and dad, of course, into sending them to not regular public school, but to a blind school over here in Louisville. I've been by it a many a time.
mm.
And when mom came over to visit, it was like 6 weeks. And when mom came, and at home, mind you, they were just running around doing everything anybody else was doing,
Mhm,
any other little boy.
mhm,
Now, Randy might run into something and Stanley might run into something, but they just kept on pushing.
mm.
And they were leading like a normal life. So she came over to visit them, or they did for the first time. And the blind school had them with blind canes, feeling around, touching stuff with blind canes and walking like they were blind. And she said, absolutely not.
Wow.
Give me my kids. They are not blind. I'm taking them home now.
Mm,
And she took her kids back home, and they never went back there again. And wait a minute, she said they were feeling around, feeling furniture. They could see. They couldn't see as well as you and me, but they could see.
mm,
So she took them back home, and she taught them that they can do just what the other guys in the we lived in what was called a camp. the black camp. Whatever these other guys in the black camp is doing, you can do too. She didn't say guys, she said boys. They can't do anything that you can't do. That reminds me of Eddie. Eddie did everything that a woman could do. If she was gonna hang up clothes, she'd watch him and stand on her nubs and hang them up, with clothespins, just like Mama could, just like a normal person. Her handicap didn't stop her from doing nothing. I mean, I have seen that personally. But about Randy and Stanley, that's what she taught them. You got to learn you can't go through life depending on nobody. You can't go through life asking for a check, somebody to take care of you. You can't go through life calling yourself a handicap. I'm a handicapped person. I'm disabled. No, you are not. Wow. So she would get them, and she would make them do things. And what she did, she was very, very wise. That's my word. Wise in how she handled that, because she knew that they couldn't make it through public school just going Stanley and Randy. So God gave her Jill, and Jill came along and his eyes were perfect. So what she did is she took Jill, and all three of them will be sitting there. Jill is going to be your eyes. Randy was the smartest one. Randy is going to be the brain, and Stanley, you're going to be the doer. And that went through their life. And Stanley ended up leaving home. He went and opened up 2 or 3 businesses, more than 3 probably, just different businesses. Did well because she told him they wasn't handicapped. If she can do it, I can do it. If he can do it, I can do it. And then there's Randy. Randy took Jill and Randy, standing on the premise and the advice that Mama gave them, that Jill would be your eyes and you be the head. And they went and made so well in school. They went to school and got degrees, got certificates, whatever they get, diplomas. I don't know what they get, but both of them turned out to be chiropractors. Both of them had practices. People would come in for their services and they would pay for their services. The one that Mama thought was the one that had the worst sight, which he did, and that he might not fare as well as the others, is the one, but she made sure that Jill took him under his arms, and that Jill was always there reading to him. Right now, you could talk to him about anything, because that right there made him want to be a reader. And he has the kind of brain that just wants to read. Now, when I say read, it kind of reminds you of Stevie Wonder, driving a car. Say, where you going, Stevie? I'm going out here in the car. I'm going to go up to the thing I got to go to. You going to go drive a car? But Randy says, okay, I'm going to go read a book. I'll talk to you later. And you see, and I know what he's talking about. He's talking about his books that he has in his library that he listens to. That's the way he reads. So he listened to Jill, and he went all the way through chiropractic training and ended up, you know how he lives. I ain't gonna go deep into their details, but the Lord blessed him. So that was that. I don't even know what you said first.
Well, we talked about where you got the what you saw in your mother and how she wouldn't allow them to use vision
so
and proficiency as a handicap, and that's certainly exactly the way you raised me, because there was, if somebody talk about you at school, wipe your tears and keep going, because you ain't stopping. You still gonna go. And never letting me. I can recall you telling me that was an option to be receiving some Social Security money.
Oh yeah, you were classified as legally blind, and you could have gotten a disabled check, but I wouldn't let that happen. And it was something else I was going to say. Not only did I do that because my mother, I saw my mother teach her children that had congenital cataracts. Then Randy, when he had children, he had 2 of them with congenital cataracts, and he taught them the same way his mother had taught them. And those kids have master's degree, just like you. All of y'all ended up with master's degree. Look at you. You're a school teacher. There, and I'm talking about Quinnell and Jason. Me and Quinnell's been on this job working for the Veterans Administration. It's 40 some years now. That's how long she's been on that job. And she's so young, she doesn't want to, because she started young. I'm getting off the beaten path.
No, that's okay. I just want to
But I'm just saying that is not a handicap. You don't let your handicap define you.
That's right. That's right. And it definitely makes you stronger. And I agree with you on all of that. It makes you definitely, I mean, you sink or swim. I had to do what I had to do. I couldn't, rely on anything or anybody but myself. So that's all totally thanks to you and my grandmother, Grandma, for her steady.
Well, yeah. Well, thanks to me, but your dad had a lot to do with it. Let's not just be one-sided. We don't one-sided. Your dad had a lot to do with loving you and making sure you had a roof over your head and you had food to eat and encouragement. Now I'll tell you what you got from your dad. Do you want to hear that?
By all means.
Oh. So your dad could always play the piano from time that I met him when I was 12. He was playing the piano then, so that made him be 13. And I mean, that back then they played the boogie woogie. He wasn't into no, he wasn't into no Christian stuff. And
yeah, that was back in the Ray Charles and back in the old
Muddy Water and
Muddy Waters and all of them. Yeah,
the guy that was sitting on the dock of the bay, him back in that era.
Yeah.
But anyway,
yeah, so that really was.
He loved playing the piano, just loved it. And we would I remember at my sister Martina's funeral, we went to her funeral, and you know how the Finleys, when they get together, all they want to do is what?
Sing, not sing.
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 We just want to sing.
Yes, so, hours.
And he always enjoyed that, your father.
Yes.
He always enjoyed that. So I remember he got on that piano at Tina's house, and we all gathered around in the room. It was a bunch of us. And he played and he played and he played until around the cracks of his nails was bloody. And he still would not stop playing. He just kept on playing. Yeah. They were just bloody.
There, honey, when the musician is bloody and they still going.
And he just kept on going. So that is where you got that from. He loved it so much that that gene came from him. I remember when we first got the piano, because he loved playing piano, so he bought a piano. And the piano came in the house, and you kind of plinked on it, and you loved it. And then you kind of plinked on it, and you and your daddy would get on there, and he'd let you have a place on the end of the seat. He'd be over there, and he'd be playing, and you'd be plinking a little bit. He'd be playing, and he showed you some stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, you just took off like lightning. It was just Jesus. It was like the Lord just brought a musical veil down over you and gave you the gift of singing. You got that from me, by the way. My part. So,
shout out, Daddy. I think you do just fine.
The gift of singing and the gift of music in your ears, in your heart. It just kind of rose up in you. And you got on that piano and you didn't need him no more. You could just play, and you got better and better. And one thing, it's just like your art. It soothed you. It soothed you. It made you calm. When things was going on, every household has issues. When issues would come up in the household or issues would come up in your life, whether you done had a little fight with the little girls outside or you done had a fight with Monica, issues, just issues. What would you do? go
Wow.
to the piano.
Mhm.
You go to the piano, and you loved Aretha Franklin and James Cleveland.
Oh,
Those were your two.
yeah.
You would sit there and play and play. By this time, we were in church, and we were. I think he was pastoring. I don't know if he was or not when we first got that. Maybe not, because I think we were over to St. Paul or somewhere. But you'd get on that piano and you would stay and sing. And the more you sing, the better your voice would get. The more you'd play, the better your playing would get. And you would stay there. I don't care if it took you 2 hours or an hour and a half or whatever, but you would play until your very soul got satisfied. You would play until you had completely uh, uh, wrapped yourself in that. And whatever the problem was, your music had soothed you, and it no longer was the big thing that it was before you started.
Yeah. It is an emptying for me. That's definitely, who knows you better than your mama. So that's what it was. It is still, it's an emptying. And so that being said, I think that's why oh, bless you.
Excuse
Oh,
me.
bless you.
That's one thing COVID left me with. Rich knows that. I just sneeze, sneeze, sneeze.
Whew. Well, so you
Are
okay?
we gonna get?
Are you okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I'm fine. Mhm.
Yeah, so for me, I don't know. And the weird part about it is that me sharing my music or my art, I still have this kind of layer of like, I don't know. I don't do it like I'm performing like everybody look at me. I need everybody. I mean, if I'm not on the program, I'm really good because I'm very shy and I don't really want to be in the front.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's the thing is that why I guess I said my music or my art and my music, now that you brought that up, they're more like a prayer. They're more like a, it's not a performance thing for me. It's really like I got to get this out and I got to
Mhm.
express this feeling. It's more of
Mhm.
that for me. That's what it is.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
yeah, a little different because everybody does it for different reasons. So I kind of, as I'm getting older, really I'm more selective about, not just doing stuff just because I want to do it or be on program or people to see me. I really, if it's not really something that I feel it in my heart, I'm not drawing it and I'm not singing it.
Okay.
I'm not. So
Mhm. Mhm.
for that is, well, that
Yeah.
was a really great little moment there, Mom. I didn't know that you see, thank you for being just real and
Yeah.
sharing yourself.
It's reminiscing.
That's what I wanted this conversation to be about because that's the essence of the work is how I
Mhm.
feel about you. So that was where the hearts were, and we got all of that good juicy information from you about grandma and my uncles and cataracts, all that from just the hearts because you always showed love to me. You always
Mm.
showed love to me. And then the fruit, I think that can represent a lot of things, the vine,
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a lot of I mean wisdom and the beauty of, I mean, we could go into just so much about grapes and you and
Mhm.
oh,
Mhm.
lot can be
Yeah.
said about that.
Mhm. Could I say something about it?
Yes, please.
When I first saw this, I don't know if you've ever recognized it, but there's the Bible, the Word of God,
Hmm.
the truth,
Hmm.
and the light,
Hmm.
um, love, compassion, all of those things you learn, and God puts it in you, but it comes from His Word because God is love,
Hmm.
and the Holy Bible, the Scriptures, are His Word. It's Him. In
Hmm.
the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God, and the Word was with God.
Hmm.
So I looked at that and I said, it all starts. Now, the way she started it out, because I go from left to right. Usually when people read, they go from left to right.
Hmm.
So that's the first thing that to me, I don't know what you drew first, but this is what I see in it.
Hmm.
And I noticed the heart on there because it's all about love. But one thing I did notice is it starts out little. Love. You may not love a person. We take your husband or your your friend or your anyway, whoever it is, your beloved, I'll say.
Beloved. Okay.
Okay. And it starts out little, but it blossoms and blooms. So the first thing that hit me was, well, look, there's the little one up at the top. It's starting to bud out. It's starting to be, yes. And then there's the grapes, meaning fruitful. It's going to multiply. It's going to, look at all those little seeds in there. Look at all those grapes. Look at the greenery on top, meaning that, yes, it's alive, it's well. That brings me back to the little heart. But the thing that I really looked at was how those hearts grew larger and larger. Do you see that? The first one up at the top is little. Then you come down to the next row. I'm not talking about the one on the Bible, but it could go with that. Go right across, they're getting larger. Then in the middle, it's larger than all the other four at the top. Then you come down. Can you pull it up just a little bit? Come down and look how big it is. Even this cluster of seeds, cluster of grapes, everything is larger with love. Everything grows wonderfully with love. And that's what I saw about the purple flowers or the purple hearts. And then I looked at your, it just, when I see musical notes, it always reminds me of you. It always does. It's a love that I saw in you for music that nobody will ever get to take. You know how they can take things from you?
Yeah.
Life can be so cruel that it will make you not like what you used to like. It will yank out of your heart what you felt as precious. But life can be so cruel. That's why that song says, I still have joy. No matter what happened to me, I still have joy. You always have your music. That's what the musical notes will always remind me of my baby. Now we'll go back up to the top. You want to say something right now?
No, I think I agree with you. I love it when I look at older people that are elderly, maybe even that are living in nursing homes, and you put them on a piano and they can still play. They might not be able to communicate or, in the way they used to, but that music is something about music that just, it never changes.
It's like riding a bike, huh?
Yeah. I'm so grateful.
So how did you see, once you drew this picture, what did you look back and see about the flowers in the Bible? Or when you put that Bible up there?
I was going with it. I knew it was something about you and love. I didn't know how to represent how I felt or what you meant to me. I didn't know how to put that in a picture. So this is really what happened. It just kind of just kept growing into this. So these hearts were what came first, and the fruit.
And then
the Bible came, interestingly, toward the end. It didn't. It wasn't one of the first things. But this reminds me of the
But
Bible.
you left room for it up there somehow.
Somehow it worked out. Yeah. And it was actually, I remember a thin Bible that you and Dad had that I always liked.
That was Aunt Helen's Bible.
Yeah, it was a New Testament.
And I sent it back to him. I hope y'all gave it to him.
Okay.
Because that was his,
got it. So that just always has been a foundation. You guys weren't always in the church in my youth until we got a little bit older. And so I did have that comparison of, the house and how God changed our family when came into our lives. So it really did shape us in a whole lot of ways. And I'm so grateful that we had that foundation,
That change, yeah.
So then I went on and I tried to come up with some specific things. Like I came up with 7 things that really I thought encapsulated what things I take from you, or just me as a woman, what things I got from you as a woman. So why don't we just go through those silhouettes of things that I added on here, and then we can just kind of have a conversation about it.
Yeah,
I think
I'd
we
be
kind of
happy.
already covered this. I'm sorry, go ahead.
You go ahead. You can be first, or I'll be first.
Well, we're going to zoom in and look at the first silhouette. This is a picture that I found of a little girl, and if you can see close enough, her hair is just a whole bunch of music notes.
Yeah, how about that?
Yep. So
I couldn't see that far away.
Yeah.
And that. Go ahead.
No, you go.
Okay, that's just like life too. To see all of that buzzing in her head. That's what's really causing her. That's what's showing up in her life. That's the prominent thing. It's just, I guess most musicians are like that. I don't know. If that's all they think about is just music, music, music. The way I looked at it, because I didn't even realize those musical notes were in there. When I looked at it, I said, okay, there's a Black woman. And her head is absolutely about to explode with the things that she has to contend with. We just gonna say in one day. If it wasn't for the pandemic right now, things would be what we used to call normal. And the first thing, this is actually what I looked into this and saw. I said, she got a lot to contend with. So it just blows her mind sometimes with the things that's going on in her head. The first thing she's got to contend with is the fact that she's Black. And she's not going to have the same opportunities, the same fairness that a white woman would have. So that's in her head. Well, if I go over there, first thing they're going to look at is the color of my skin, so forth and so on. That's on her head. You never forget that. When you walk into a room, or when you go somewhere, and you know that, and I'm getting racial now, there's the opposite race. I'll just say the Caucasian race. Well, you got some prejudice toward your skin color. So I'm thinking that's always in her head. And then if she got kids, that's in her head for them. Now just say she's a working mom. She got a lot to contend with. Get them kids together, get breakfast together, get them out. I got to get myself ready for school. I got so many things to do next week. Little Peter has this, and next week little Jane has that, and just all kind of stuff, and then work problems, and then church problems, and then family problems, and just all kind of problems. And her head was just about to explode, just explode with all of the things that's going on in her head. Your head can't take but just so much. So that's all I thought about that one. How much she must have on her mind, because I did not realize those were notes.
Okay. Well, that's an interesting perspective on just the complexity of being a Black woman in America. You're right. It's a lot, especially in the years. Well, shoot, all the years. It's never been easy for us over here. Yeah, that's a whole nother episode for a whole nother discussion.
But are you saying that that's what goes on in your head? All kind of tunes.
I added this in. I thought about you in terms of when I was a young girl. I can just remember you singing in the house all the time. Like you would sing while you clean, sing while you cook, sing while you're here, sing while you. I mean, music was just everywhere, and I had the benefit of having your spirituality. You were always well, now wait a minute, because I do remember before you did get saved, honey.
Before I got saved,
world turned Misty Brown.
I followed my father, the devil. I know that's right.
We had a lot of. I'm grateful for it, because I kind of see secular music and sacred music not as I don't really see it as, I think different music genres have different purposes. If you're in love, you need a love song. If you're in blues, you sing the blues. If you worshiping God, you worshiping him in his in sacred music. So I'm probably not the one to talk about devil music versus God music, because I see music differently than that. But what I see with this and why I included it is because that's kind of how my childhood was. In the middle of all of the things I was dealing with, I can remember going through my surgeries and not being able to see and having to wear that patch on my eye all the time, always having a patch. I can remember crying a lot because the kids would tease me, but I can remember like you guys would be playing music on your reel to reel. I can remember listening to Nancy Wilson, and I would have to hear more than I could see. So I would just really be eyes closed, and I would be hearing so much of the music.
Yeah, and let me see. Can you remember this? Have you seen? There is a video out where I think her name is Dorinda Clark, maybe, or one of those Clark sisters. She takes her daughter, her little daughter, and she goes, say it's a tune that she wanted. Come on, you say this after me. God is good and great.
God is good and great.
Yeah, that's the way that I taught you the churchy way. So you know how to get in the churchy way, and you can just go up, you can go down, and you can go around, and you just and me and you would get there, and I'd be teaching you, to repeat after me, repeat after. That's one thing about it. Monica wasn't interested in that.
But I think she kind of was. It was just that she expressed it differently, because remember when we did finally get our church going, Monica can play the organ like by ear.
Yeah, you forgot. Yeah, she tore that organ up, didn't she?
Yes, she would. So we were both taking.
And I mean, she tore it up not with just her hands, but her feet. And she was not looking down there. She was turning them pedals up, and they knew exactly, the feet knew where to go.
Yes. So we were both very much moved by the music that you all gave us. It was always, and I guess that's what this girl represents. It was just always around me, and it was always a comfort to me, and it was just always in my life. And so that's where she came from. That's that little flying out of her head. Okay. Oh, and wait, before I finish, I always like to say this too. Now I know a little known fact about my mother. Remember how you told us about how they were trying to get you to come on tour with Tina Turner in the Tina Turner Review?
Oh, girl, please. We don't even want to talk about it.
But it's the truth.
That's so far in my background.
It's the truth, though. So, ladies and gentlemen, she was good enough to where they wanted her to be in Tina Turner's background review. Okay. So that's that one. And I guess we'll move on to the next silhouette. You good with this one? Because I think we kind of covered the music.
Yeah.
All right. So the next one that I included was her.
Now I saw a lot in her.
Me too.
Ooh, I can almost feel that back pain, honey. Please.
Okay.
Ooh,
So
Lord, look like she's looking up saying, Lord, how long?
How long
is my back gonna hurt? Is this gonna be over soon?
Yes.
But oh, the joy when it's over. You know that verse, weeping may endure for a night, but joy, that whole labor thing is that verse. Absolutely. Weeping may endure for a night, but joy cometh in the morning. Boy, when that baby comes out, woo, happy. Yeah. You forget all the pain. Yeah, you know exactly.
You had go ahead, finish your thought.
Well, and I was just going to say, she's pretty big. And when you're pregnant, you have a lot of stuff swirling around, just like in her head. How is it going to be? How I've got this husband, I've got this life. Now we got a child. Are we going to make it? How are we going to make it?
So can I ask you a question? Were you the kind of person who always, like, because you had a lot of brothers and sisters. You were older and had lots of younger siblings. How many are younger than you?
Younger than me.
There was
Let me see.
13 of you. So you,
Arlene, Bunny, Arlene, Bunny, Tina, Lynn, Daryl, Vicky, and Ned. So it was 7 under me.
so were you the kind who wanted kids? Like you just knew one day you would be a mother. You knew you. I have. Let me just preface that by saying I have another friend who had a lot of nieces and nephews. She was the youngest, and she had a lot of brothers and sisters. So she grew up being around the same age as her nieces and nephews. And she literally was like, I have taken care of so many kids since I was a kid that I don't want to have kids. So she
Oh,
was
see, that didn't apply to me at all
okay.
because I was being taken care of. I had Eddie as our second mother and mom as mom.
Mhm.
And so I never did have to just take care of kids, you know, but you tell them, you better watch out for your brother or you better watch out for your sister. You know, you're the oldest. So I'm holding you accountable. It was stuff like that.
So did you
Uh,
always want to be a mother? Like one day I just want to have my own kid?
no,
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 it just kind of
mm-mm,
happened.
no. I'll tell you back in the day when you were talking about that Tina Turner day, um, I always, back then, before the Lord brought me out of sin, I wanted to be a lounge singer. I love Nancy Wilson and Sarah Vaughan and Ella Fitzgerald, and I love that kind of music. And I always wanted to be a lounge singer, but then it didn't happen that way.
Then you
It was
started
I was married
kids.
8 years before we had Monica,
Mm,
so you know
you had to put off what you were going to do and become a mom.
probably that's what happened, but that didn't never pan out. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Well, for me, my personal situation was I was married previously, and I really did want to have kids, and that wasn't a possibility. So for me, seeking the opportunity to be a mom was very, very important, very, very important. And I think it had a
mhm.
lot to do with just because of what I saw with you and me, our relationship. We don't have a strained relationship. So motherhood was something that I certainly wanted to do. And I
Well,
looked forward to,
yeah.
and I'm so grateful that you were able to walk with me through my journey of being a young mother, because that was something I knew in my life would not have been complete if I had not had that opportunity.
Mhm. Well, once I did find out that I was pregnant, which was 6 months later,
Wow.
so I didn't have the opportunity to, go the whole 9 yards.
Hmm.
But I fell in love with motherhood. It's like an ingrown, embedded, uh, what do you say, mother instinct that just builds in you through the months.
Hmm.
And once you are a mother, man, that's the icing on the cake for
That's
a
nice.
woman.
Yes, I agree.
It really is. When you don't have a child and you see other women just having children, and those that deserve it and those that don't deserve it, and uh, uh, it just does something to you. You do have a want and a desire to be a complete woman, because you don't feel complete really until you have birthed a child. To
And I
me.
won't say that, and yeah, I guess it's an opinion, because I won't say it's necessarily the physical birth. I do think also women can get that same fulfillment out of whether it's adoption or foster care.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Someone to
yeah,
care
yeah.
for, someone to, even if it's a pet, I have to say that too. Even if it's a pet, I think we have an ingrained need as women to care and to raise and to birth
And the nurture,
and to
yeah.
nurture. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Mhm, mhm,
yeah.
yeah, you're right.
And I don't
Mhm.
think you lose that. Let me go a little deeper with that. I don't think you lose that as a woman, because after having my children and then circumstances arose where I had to actually go through the process of a hysterectomy, which is a whole nother episode and a whole nother discussion. But I didn't lose my sense of wanting to birth things. I think we are naturally women. We naturally want to birth things, whether it's like we said, a song or an art piece or a company or a project. I think women just naturally have a desire to birth things
Mhm.
physically and in the spirit realm. I think that that's just how we are created personally.
You know, you got a great point. That is a good point. I was thinking while you were talking that, yeah, because you know what you can do? It's like walking into a house that you just bought or that you know, moving into.
Mhm.
And in your mind, this is birthing things. I'm gonna put this over here and that over there,
Absolutely.
this over here, and I'm gonna put curtains over here and pictures right there. And
Mhm.
you're making it come alive.
Mhm.
You know, you
Absolutely.
and that is joy.
Mhm.
That is just sheer joy when you can start something yourself,
Mhm.
you know, and finish it, and bring it to something to fruition.
I agree. I agree. Well, that is actually a great segue into the next one because this was my next thing to include. And I know that when we talked about it offline, you were like, well, what is that and why is it on there? So I wanted to kind of explain to you why I put this on here. I
Hmm.
included the light bulb because it represents ideas. And I have to say, you are one of the most creative thinkers and problem solvers that I have ever did know. I mean, you
Mm.
can, when it came to things around the house that needed fixing, it wasn't a issue of sitting back and trying to just somebody come help me. You were very much a problem solver type of person. And I know that's where I got it from. If the door
Wait, you know what that reminds me of?
what?
Okay, so you know that your daddy was in the Navy, so I had to do the daddy work, be the mama and the daddy
It was gone, right?
when he would go away on mhm,
Overseas. Hmm.
yeah, I forgot what they call them. But
Deployment.
anyway, remember the time that it was just us, he was out to sea somewhere. Uh but the snake was out in the front yard.
Yeah.
Oh, and the snake was out there in the grass in the front yard. And we went out there and saw the snake. Somebody called me and told me it was a snake out there.
Hmm.
So I knew that I was the daddy and the mama.
Hmm. What
So it was up to me to get that snake out of the yard.
yeah.
So I went and got my hoe. I was shaking all over. But you know what? That's what you do for your children.
That's right.
You will go kill a snake.
That's right. Before
Yeah,
they get my
you
baby.
do anything to protect your children.
Yes, indeed.
So I got that hoe and I went out there, and every time I would go, I'd say, ah! It just scared me to death every time I hit at him. You know, just the wind from the hoe would make him wiggle.
Yeah.
You know, just wiggle, just to
Oh.
feel the hit on the earth.
Mm.
But that just reminded me of that um, how we do as mothers. We have to be um,
Problem solver.
creative,
Creative.
creative, even in keeping you guys satisfied. You
Hmm.
know, let's do this and let's do that. Well, come on and let's do this. You know, just you just I don't even. You can have it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I agree. You have to be creative, and that's what I saw in you in all the things that you would put your hands to, whether it was fixing, sewing something, or building something, creating things, or
Oh, what about that house I made you guys
remind.
out of that big box that I think the stove or something came in it.
Mm,
Big box. And I made a whole house for y'all
oh my.
and painted it yellow. Remember that?
Oh, I think I remember a picture of us in that.
Yeah, it's a picture. I made that out of I'm sure it was an oven box or something like that, because something big came in it. And I said, I can make them a house out of that. And I made, you could go in the side door, but the front door had windows. You saw pictures of it.
Hmm.
And
I
it had a
remember
door. And anyway, yeah, you do have to be creative. You
and that's
do.
what that was for. And I noticed myself teaching my kids that be a problem solver. Okay, so that's not, the drawer isn't closing properly, don't just walk away and quit. Look at it and see how it works. Can you figure out
Mm-hmm.
the screw missing? Can you, what,
Mm-hmm.
something blocking it? So you were always very much a creative thinker and a problem solver. So that's what that represents.
Mm.
Okay. All right. We're going to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the next one is this. And these are, of course, measuring cups. The obvious is there, cooking. I mean, my mama can cook. Lord have mercy, knows she can cook. So that's not even a question. Some of my favorite recipes, her dressing is the bomb. Everybody always loves her dressing. Don't even trip. I could go on, but she's the consummate. You are the consummate entertainer. Like anybody that knows they come to your house, they know it's going to be beautiful. They know they're going to have lots to eat and it's going to be good. So that represents that. But also, it's also, I go a little deep sometimes. So the measure of things, you taught me how to kind of measure, as I got to be an older woman and began to, in my 20s and 30s, weigh things out, see what's worth arguing about, measure what's worth, you know what I mean? The measure of how much you give to the world, how much you keep for yourself. How do you split your time? Are you, those kind of things, you've given me those lessons as well, in terms of just learning how to balance and measure things. You always would talk about your climate. You have control of your climate. You have climate control. So those kind of lessons help me to learn to measure my ways and actions a little bit better than I was doing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, what I want to say about that is, but by the grace of God, y'all could have turned out some other way. But the Lord given me a little knowledge. Now, I was never perfect. I was never an angel. I'm not claiming to be that. But I found that I acquired more wisdom about life in my later years. Mm-hmm. Even though I've been able to, to help you guys, if you wanted advice or needed advice, but you will find yourself, if you think you're doing good now in your measuring, you wait until you get in your 50s and 60s, because you will feel like you are really moving on then. And you do start measuring things more carefully. You do start thinking about things more carefully. And all the while, you'll be, whatever that is, you'll be passing it back to Layla and Jaden, whether they listen or not. You'll be passing it back to them. But now let's get to the real thing here about cooking. I always loved to cook. I would see Eddie. I cook dishes that my mother cooked. I cook dishes that Eddie cooked. And I'll cook them sometimes, and I'll call Randy and I say, T, guess what I'm cooking? And he'll say, I don't know what you're cooking. And I'll tell him, liver and onions and rice. Oh man. He just says, oh man. Or I'll tell him, T, I just did some fried apples. Man, he'll say, oh, but just cooking. See, I got all of that from my mother and from Eddie. I can never hardly say my mother's name without saying Eddie's name, because she was with us all of my life, or all of our life. So we have to give credit to whom credit is due.
That's right. That's right.
So,
for those who are listening, you did mention Eddie a few times. So for those who are listening, Sister Edna was a lady who went to church with my grandparents, and she unfortunately had a train accident, and her leg.
No, wait. She didn't go to church with them. She lived with us from the time she was 19. She lived with us.
So she had a unfortunate incident with a train in the.
Well, let me just. I'm gonna let you tell it, but let me just tell it.
You can tell.
No, I'm gonna let you tell it. But she was engaged to be married, and she had gotten saved in my mother's church. We were born and raised in Pentecostal or Holiness Church, and she had gotten saved, and she didn't have anywhere to live because something had happened with her family or something. So she didn't have anywhere to live. And my mom had the heart, even though she had, at that time, she had Joan, Stanley, and Randy. Now, when Eddie came in, then Jill was born. So from the time that Jill was born all the way, to the rest of them, Mama, until her last baby, which was Daryl, she always lived with us. And so we called her our second mother. Now you can tell, but this is what I was trying to say. And she was, we call it courting. You would call it dating, but she was dating this guy, and she had a ring. They were going to get married. She was engaged, and then this accident happened. Now you can pick it up from there.
Go ahead and tell the accident. Go ahead, Mom.
Well, she was getting cold from the railroad track. She had a this is before she came to live with us. She had a coal sack, no, like a what is it, pillowcase, and she was gathering coal that fell off the trains as they came back, because we lived by the railroad track. And one day she had on a dress, and she was trying to run and beat the train across the track before the train came, because it would be a long train and you'd have to stand there a long time. So her patience did not help her at the time. So being impatient, she ran across the railroad, and her dress, and she was dragging this coal, and her dress, which was long, got caught on the railroad track, and she couldn't get her legs over, and the train cut both of her legs off up to the knee. And we always called them nubs, but that never, ever, the man did not marry her after that. The man left Harlan. So Mom felt really bad for her. So she had her to come and live with us.
And raised you all. And what do you
and raised us? We wouldn't even know about the Lord as we do, and how to live and serve and worship and praise the Lord without Eddie and Mama and Daddy.
Yeah, her name always goes synonymously when I think of my grandparents. She was definitely just grandmother.
Edna, yeah, her name was Edna Whitley. We called her Eddie. Yeah, I learned a lot from your grandmother, Nancy, whom you were named after.
Okay, that's my father's side, my father's mother. Yeah, I had some pretty good grandparents. I can't even lie. I was grateful to be old enough to know them.
She taught me how to sew. That's how I learned my sewing skills, was right there with her. Wow. I loved her. She was so frank. She reminded me of you in a lot of ways, or you remind me of her.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's an honor to hear
that.
Okay. Well, that was a lot to come from a measuring spoon. That was a good little piece there. Well, we have 3 more, so let's move on. Are you okay? You need to stop for a sip of your.
No, I had some while you were talking.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to the next one. I think it kind of ties right into what we were just talking about. So this was the next silhouette that I had to put on here.
I love that one.
You have been a prime example for me on what real spirituality looks like when no one's looking. That's the thing about being a kid, is that you can see your mom, your dad, when no one else is looking, when they're at home, and even when they don't think you're looking. I can remember hearing you pray with your door closed. I can remember hearing you speak in tongues. I can remember hearing you call out on the Lord. I knew what that sounded like, and I knew that I didn't just see it when we went to church, but I could see it when we were at home. So me knowing that God was not just this thing in a building or on a fan or in a picture, but it was like a real actual relationship. That's definitely what you showed me by example. So I had to put her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, when I look at her first, I love that posture.
Mm-hmm.
It's so humble,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so meek,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so it's like a needy person
Mm-hmm.
that's coming before the Lord, and that's how He wants us to come,
Mm-hmm.
just destitute
Yeah.
and with a contrite spirit and a broken heart, or a broken spirit and a contrite heart.
Yeah.
But that's what really has kept me a lot of my years. I'm 76 now.
Mm-hmm.
And that right there, the one thing I regret, and I really would like, I had both of my knees replaced, and I cannot get on my knees to pray anymore. It's like, no, I can't do that. It's like I'm on bones or something, but it hurts too bad. I can't do that.
Wow.
So I found other ways to pray.
Mm.
But I'm gonna say this about that. My mother taught me, her mother taught her. See, that goes way back.
Mm.
Your great grandmother, Zella, on my side,
Mm.
taught your mother, taught me, my mother,
Mm-hmm.
how to pray, how to connect with God.
Mm-hmm.
You just don't go before the Lord any kind of way, haphazardly, and not respectfully, and not. He wants you to come before Him in spirit and in truth. And I had to learn that.
Mm-hmm.
A long time I was doing it Mama's them way, and I was doing it the way that they had taught me. But then when you learn how to praise Him and how to love Him and how to relate to Him. See, if you can't relate to Him, if you can't like you would want to, and that praying is almost like it's on a different level. Of course, it's spiritual, but you get a certain satisfaction when you come away from a conversation with the Lord. And I learned that from my daddy. Don't leave my daddy out. He was a praying man.
Mm-hmm.
He was a dedicated, devoted man of God. And he was a giving man. That's where I got that too from.
Mm-hmm.
My daddy was a giving man.
Mm-hmm.
But they all taught us how to pray. We all know how to pray. Somebody can call on, and that's just too bad. I was happy to see Jaden praying. Somebody could say, "Let me see, we need somebody to pray." How about you, Sister Henderson? Would you pray for us, Father in heaven, in Jesus' name? You have got to be able to have a relationship with the Lord, so you can call on Him at any time.
Keep a prayer on your lips, huh?
Yeah. You be ready in season and out of season. I know it's talking about preaching, but I'm talking about praying right now. And be instant in prayer. It says that somewhere in there too. So all because of the way we were raised. If they needed somebody to do something, you better be the Finleys was ready. Because they would train us at home. They would train us as in our home. How? Because Mama would have prayer meetings every day. You could be out there praying. You gonna come in for prayer.
Mm-hmm.
So we learned about prayer from there.
Mm-hmm.
And it just helps you to walk upright before the Lord. It helps you to stay in tune with the Lord. It helps you to help others.
Mm-hmm.
Because your prayer is not just about you, but it's about others.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's enough.
Well, I sure enjoyed that, honey. That's what I wanted to hear. I mean, we could go deeper into that. I'd love to talk to you more And
Yeah, that's a deep, good subject right there.
it is. It is.
Mm, mhm.
Well, let's go to, I have two more. So the next one, education. So I definitely know that you all set the precedence for us to be educated. Interestingly, I think if I'm not mistaken, well, let's see. When I was going to San Diego State, I don't think any of us had gone to a university and graduated. I think Dad went to Tennessee State for a few years, but then he chose the career path of the Navy and other things, and
Mhm.
went on later to come back to the university and get his degree. And I know that you graduated from high school. I can always remember that picture of your graduation as a young girl, and that always stood out to me, that I knew that that was something. If you see that, if you see your parents doing it, you'll do it. If it looks like it's something that they did, it makes you
Mhm.
know that you can do it. So I know that I
Mhm.
always knew that I could become educated because I always saw that picture of you in your cap and gown as a
Mhm.
graduate. It wasn't even
Mhm.
an option. I didn't have an option because I knew that my option was to do what you did.
Mhm.
Who
Mhm.
who encouraged you? Because you also went on to vocational school, you've also gone to seminary, you've never stopped being a learner in your life. I mean, we've gone over a lot of those things together and written them down, but you've always kept busy with learning. So who do you attribute that to?
Mm, believe it or not, your dad's side of the family.
Okay.
Hmm. Um, it was education all on his side, especially your Aunt Polly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and his mother was a stickler about education. I mean, she really was. I think that's why he and Polly went so far. Um, but I think even though Randy and Jill was in when I graduated from high school, they were already in. Uh, where did they go? Indianapolis, some university in Indianapolis, some chiropractic school or some medical school. That's what it was, a medical school. And I just, you know what I really wanted to be too was I always wanted to be an executive in the business world. So,
Never knew that.
mhm, yeah. So I did go to business school, among other little schools. I went to IBM school. I got certificates from there. I went to uh, college on a small scale, not too much.
But
But then
interestingly that you bring
I
that up.
started.
When you look at the cultural history and where we were, I mean, when you mentioned grandma and how important it was for Grandma Nancy to instill that into her kids, you're looking at people whose parents have birth certificates from the 1800s that were literally, if they weren't a slave, they
Mhm.
were literally just emancipated. So the idea of education in you were born in the 40s. So it was still so, it wasn't so common. It wasn't common. So
That's
for,
true.
yeah, for people to push forward and
Well,
graduate
then,
high school.
and yeah, and you know where that kind of probably came from is my father worked in the coal mines for 60 years,
Mhm,
and his sons saw that was the only thing around Harlan
mhm,
that a black man could do
mhm,
was work in the coal mine.
mhm.
If he had, if he wanted a job, take care of himself and his family, it was the coal mine. So my brothers probably said to themselves, this is not going to be me. I'm not working in nobody's coal mine.
Mhm.
And the other guys around there, I only remember one person that stayed there in Harlan until maybe 3 years ago when he died. And he worked in the coal mines until he retired.
Mhm.
But that wasn't what none of us wanted. We wanted to be better than the way we were raised.
Mm.
I don't know if you know, if I ever told you that maybe that was an inspiration too. When I graduated in 63, we were the last graduating class that was segregated
Interesting.
in Harlem.
Mm.
The very last graduating class.
Mm.
The next year, they closed that down, closed our school down, and we had integrated, and everybody from the ninth grade to the 12th grade had to go to Harlem, to the white school.
Mm.
Had to go to the white school, and we lived in Coxton. But anyway, I was just saying, even that right there, I don't know. I
Mm.
just wanted to be better than, even I was a domestic worker. I used to work a whole week for $18.
Mm.
And I always didn't, said, I'm gonna have better stuff than this. My house is gonna be better than that. But at the time, that was all I knew, from our house and my surroundings
Mm.
to the white woman's house. And when I look back on it, the way I live now is way better than she ever thought she would live.
Mm. So
The
wait, yeah,
standards were, huh?
go ahead.
But the standards were so, uh, the levels that you could see, or the it was so minimal. Even she or they, I forgot their names. I always said I was gonna try to remember their names. Um, their vision for having things wasn't really great.
Yeah.
But in my sight, from where I came from, it was really something. And
Mm.
I always said, I'm gonna have me a house like this. I'm gonna really have me a house like that. And then I got out and saw some world. Oh no, I'm having something way better than that. Yeah, that ain't nothing really. That's mediocre. That's my word.
Mm.
It was all very mediocre. But to me, coming from nothing and nowhere,
Mm.
it was, something to see, or just imagine yourself living there.
Yeah.
But
And
mm-mm.
education is certainly the way to uplift and to upward
Yes,
mobility. Yeah.
yes. And let me just say this. That very house, or that very community that was so white and rich and uppity in their sight, I and my husband, Richard, went back there and stayed in one of the houses that we used to work in
Mm.
all night. They had turned it into a bed and breakfast.
Mm.
And I used to clean those things, or I can just say the black girls that had little jobs
Mm.
would clean those houses.
Mm.
And our mothers, your dad's mother was a domestic worker, housekeeper, whatever you want to call them. But yeah, those very houses that they used to clean, we can go and sleep in their beds now.
That's interesting. In one lifetime,
Go
how
sit
things
on their
change.
toilets. Huh?
I just said it's interesting how in one lifetime, you being 76, how things can change. So it
Yeah.
might not feel like, sometimes it feels like there's so little change when we look at the news and we see what's going on and what we're dealing with today. But change does happen, and sometimes it happens slowly. It happened over your lifetime. I think that's
Mhm.
interesting
Yeah.
to note.
And I think that's what helped me to, in the back of my mind, want to be something and do something. I always wanted to, remember I told you I wanted to be the lounge singer, and I wanted to be an executive. I
Mhm.
really wanted to be in the high business world. That was one of my dreams.
Mm.
But what was I going to say? Yeah, I was you talking about 76 years, how things can change. Man, I remember when I was coming up, we were about, and it had to be before integration. So it was when segregation was going on. Uh, they had a drugstore. I can't remember the name of it. I know one of our teachers, Mr. Walker, used to work there. To not doing nothing that the white person was doing. He was, cleaning up and dusting and putting stuff on shelves and stuff. But we would walk, they only had one door. So you walk in the front door and there was a big counter. It had about 5 or 6 stools going across it. You know where the fountain, the soda fountain, you know, you go there and sit right there and ask for a soda, ask for a milkshake or something. And you pass, you know, all of that. And, you know, white people were free to stop and get on a stool and order something, even get a hamburger, because they did all of that in the drugstore. And but you knew your place, so you walk in there and you walk straight to the back and go over to the side, and that's where you would be waited on. You couldn't be waited on out there in front of the white people. And you know, if you wanted an ice cream cone or something, it was just
well, I can
so
actually
much
take you
segregation.
back to the 80s. I don't know if we've ever shared this experience with you, me and Monica, but when we were in high school and we were in the era of busing, where they were busing the Black students out to white schools, which is what our situation was with our high school. And so we were always classified as the bus kids, you know. So if there was traffic on the freeway and it took us an hour to get to school, all the Black kids coming from Southeast San Diego would have to go, you know, late. We'd always miss first period. So there was always a stigma of us, you know, as the bus kids that are being integrated into the white schools. But at lunchtime, there was an AM PM mini market around the corner from the school. And we would go there like any other person. It was just a regular, you know, AM PM, like a 7-Eleven. You go in there and get what you want. They wouldn't allow the Black kids to go in and order their food. They made us stand on the outside, and we had to like.
And that was in the 80s?
That was when we went to Madison. Yeah, we would have to wait out there. And I think that it was just too many Black people in there at one time, and the people got nervous and worried or whatever. But they used to have us, I can recall them either letting us go in one by one, but you couldn't go just me and my sister walking into during lunchtime and getting our food. It was like, nope, if you guys line up here on the side of the building and go in one by one. So it wasn't nearly as bad.
Oh man, I don't know if you ever told me about that.
No, I guess we didn't, because, you know, what do you know? We just knew that was the way it was, and we were just these kids trying to get a hot dog at AM PM. But hopefully, you know, hearing your story from the 60s or the 50s probably at that time, and then mine, hopefully my kids won't have a
Oh yeah, a lot of racial stories that went on that, you know, we just won't talk about.
Look, that goes back to your first
yeah,
time you heard.
back to the head. You got all of that.
Right.
Your head want to explode.
But I guess at the end of this piece, we could just definitely say that, you know, education is all about uplift, and it's that they can't take away from you. You can't lose that. Once you've earned it definitely can't lose it.
And wait, I want to say something about you and Monica. One thing about you, I know you got it from your daddy's side, because your daddy was ever present in a book. Inside of a book was his head and his body and everything. And he just studied and studied. He's probably a student to this day. I don't know. But he was always, and you just reminded me so much of him. Man, you took off like lightning. You got out of high school. You were determined that you were going to college, determined that you was going to finish, determined you always wanted to be a teacher, and you went and did exactly what you wanted to do. I was so proud of you, so proud of you. And then even you, after having your children and your family, you still was pursuing knowledge. Wow. You had your little different things going, and yet you got your master's. You weren't finished yet. And I just have always admired your deep desire to go as far as you could go, and that was your. And then wait a minute now. Let me say something about your sister. Now, your sister went to college too. She
Absolutely.
might not have finished, but she went. And then, she had her kids early, so that kind of stopped what she's doing. But even after she had her kids, and she stayed on a job. What is that? SDG&E for all those years until she retired. And then she started her own business. I'm so proud of you and her. I'm so proud of y'all. You just have to keep like Jill used to say that song, keep it going, keep it going. And that's what y'all doing. You just go, and I'm just so proud because they say you can never finish learning. Always, you should always be learning.
That's right. That's right. Well, I
So,
hope
and
that you instill that love of learning in us. Yep.
mm,
Did you have another comment?
no, that's it.
Okay. All right. Well, we're on the last little silhouette. We're doing good with time, and we're on the last silhouette. This is the last one, and it looks like a tree, but actually, if you look at it very closely, you can see that it's a person, and that person is branching off, making another person, and then that person's branching off, making another person, and breaking another. And I certainly, so when I saw that image, I said that is the perfect example of you and your children. Even there's two. Look, like with me and Monica. See, one, two. And then
Yeah.
our children, and now you're blessed to see the fruit of your great grandchildren. So,
Oh Lord, if you could put our, oh yes, how um, two people
mhm,
can end up with all of those people in the white shirts. That was a nice huge bunch, and it all started with me and him. But the way the Lord is blessed, the Lord is the one that gives us the children. The Lord is the one that uh, prevails in the situation.
mhm,
Um, but I just thank the Lord that neither one of you were left barren. Because that goes back to, a woman. I feel like that just helps her when she has children. And it helps the marriage. It helps the man too. In the same way, I don't know how they feel, but they got to be very proud
mhm,
that they can make children and they can make more seed, you know.
mhm. So speak to
And
us about
the
the
same.
importance of family and and
Mhm.
and and family, because I know you have a big family on our side, on your side. Just can you give us a kind of a just a closing about family and the importance of family?
Well, one thing about it now, that is what I missed when I first got married. Oh Lord, I miss my family because
Mm,
from the time that I was born, I had a lot of people around me.
right,
You
right.
know, people were everywhere. I slept in the bed with two or three people.
Mm,
That was life.
mm-hmm.
And then to move into something where it's just two people, it was really it was tough. I had to learn how to do that.
Interesting.
But getting back to family, it was such a wonderful. I can't remember any bad times
Mm,
because I had a loving mother and a loving father. I never saw them fight. I
mm,
never saw them arguing. I never saw the things that I went through, truthfully, in my marriage that you and Monica saw that you should not have seen, and I apologize for that. But it was a godly home. And I had all of these sisters and brothers. Every time one would come in, boy, we just loved the baby,
mm.
whoever the baby was. We all just loved the baby and we'd look out for the baby. And me and Pat, the sister that died a couple of years ago, Arlene, um, we were top buddies. Everybody had a buddy.
Mm,
I'll tell you who buddy, but Lynn's buddy was Martina, who died. Daryl's buddy was Vicky and Net. Net and Daryl and Vicky, they were together. Um, Stanley and Joan, Stanley and Joan would
mm,
just hang together. Oh
mhm.
man, I have so many good memories of all of that down in Baxter and down in Coxton. how the Lord just really, we loved each other. We looked out for each other.
What
We
about
made
Uncle Bernie?
sure. Hmm?
What about Uncle Bunny?
What about him?
You didn't say who his buddy was.
I think his buddy was Tina too, because that's who it was. He was the baby twice, and then Tina died. I mean, Gilletta died, and it caused him to be the baby again. And I think it was Tina, and I know it was Tina and Lynn, but he was more toward Tina than he was Pat. Pat was the next one over him. Um,
And what about Aunt Net?
Aunt Net was Uncle Daryl. Yeah, because Vicky wasn't born at that time. Yeah, it was Daryl. Oh,
Wow.
yeah. I was gonna say, and there was always something to wear because you had hand-me-downs. You always had shoes somewhere that you could fit. Always there was a skirt. We were not allowed to wear pants. I started wearing pants when I got married, and I went back home. And I remember I had on these at the time. They were jeans, but they were what's the word? Translucent.
That mean they was invisible.
No. I didn't mean that. That's a bad word. It was kind of like neon.
Okay.
It was shiny material that changed its color.
Oh, was that famous picture of you going to the movies?
Well, that's like you could get a purple pair, and they look purple and whatever, whichever way you was moving. You could buy a green pair. I remember purple and green, and I had on these green ones. And I walked in my daddy's house. Now I'm grown and married now. I'm going for a visit from California, and he said, "You, what are you doing with those pants on?" I said, "Daddy, I'm grown. You're not coming in my house with those pants on." "Daddy, but I'm grown." My rules for my house still stands. Girls cannot wear pants in my house. So so I had to go back and change my pants, put on a dress or something I had, but everybody knew their place, in our house. Everybody knew their spots. We had this big table that Stanley would be on this end, Randy would be on that end, Joan could be in a chair, and nobody could eat the breast but Daddy. Daddy had the breast. I think Randy said his family, he taught his family that he had breast. And that was the best part of the chicken, so Daddy got it.
Interesting.
But yeah, we didn't call ourselves. Arlene said, we weren't poor. Yeah, we were poor, but we didn't feel poor. POOR. Like we always had beans and green beans and white beans and black beans and brown beans, but we always had enough to eat. And Daddy fed all of us at one time when we first moved in that little 3-room house in Coxton. All 16, it was 16 of us lived in that house. Lived right in that little, the kitchen, you couldn't sleep in there. So it was Mom and Daddy, they had their room. And the rest of us packed up in those other 2 rooms. It was a bedroom, two little bedrooms. And 3 people or 4 people would be in that bed, and 3 or 4 people would be in the next bed. Yeah, that's the way it was. It was just really, really, but we all loved each other, and we didn't feel cramped because that's all we knew. If that's all you know, you don't miss nothing.
That's right. Can't miss what you never had, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think we were just a blessed bunch coming up. And this is another thing parents loved their children back then. They didn't let them cuss, and they didn't let them talk back. and they didn't let them act like they grown. We wouldn't talk back to our parents. We wouldn't say nothing that was out of the way. You bet, you wouldn't be in the presence of no grown people while they were talking either. You know how kids hang around when the grown-ups are talking?
Mhm.
No, that was out of the question. But it was one other point I wanted to make
Well,
that
I want you to make your point, but I don't want the Zoom to hang up on you. So
Mhm.
there is a it's gonna maybe throw
Well,
us.
you finish up, but there was always love because there was always God in our house, to teach us to love one another. And we did fight just like other children fought, but there was still a foundation of godly love that we were brought up with. Okay, I'm finished.
Wow. Well, that was really, 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 really great, Mom. I'm so thankful that you were willing to share. Let me stop sharing my screen so I can come back and talk to you face to face. All right, Mom, thank you so much for taking the time to pick my art piece apart and to put your words on it, put your sprinkle on it. Really appreciate it. This has been
Now,
so fun.
yeah. Now, what I really would like to have seen was the one that I absolutely love, and that's the woman kneeling on the street.
Oh, well,
How?
I'm gonna do I will do that. I'm gonna talk about it and I'll invite you to another Zoom where we can analyze that one too, okay?
Okay. All right.
All
I'll
right.
see you later.
Well, hold on. Before we do leave, I did want to just leave anybody who might be interested in finding out more about my work or possibly acquiring a piece. This is my information here. You can go to www.mistybrownmusic.com is my website. Please check me out on YouTube. I'm going to try to build that. It's still not built, but I'm building. And you can also follow me on Facebook. That's my information there. So if you are interested, please send a message through one of those mediums and I will definitely get back to you. And I'm looking forward to having more conversations around art and my artwork. So, Mom, thank you for joining me on this inaugural beginning of me being able to talk about my art. I really appreciate it.
And you are a great artist, and you're going to be even better. And
Oh,
I hope one day to see a calendar that you put out that we can purchase, and it just everybody sees it and in awe, like I am, when they really examine.
oh.
It's good to examine. Remember that picture in the back of you, and then I'm gonna say, remember how I examined that picture, and I was showing Jaden and your husband things that was in that picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fun.
Okay. All right. May the Lord watch.
Okay. I love you, Mom.
I love you too. Bye bye.
Okay. Take care. Bye.
Okay. You too. Bye bye.